This podcast was recorded and provided by the National Association of Regional Councils. For more information about NARC, please visit narc.org.
Hello everyone, this is Taylor Marcos with the National Association of Regional Councils. As part of the U.S. Department of Energy's Sunshot Solar Outreach Partnership, we are working with our partners at the International City-County Management Association, the American Planning Association, and ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, to support local governments in increasing solar deployment in their communities nationwide. Today I am joined by David Morley from the American Planning Association. David is a Senior Research Associate with the American Planning Association in Chicago. In this role, he manages and contributes to sponsored research projects, supervises the day-to-day operations of APA's Planning Advisory Service, develops, organizes, and participates in educational sessions and workshops, writes for APA publications, and co-edits Zoning Practice, APA's monthly publication dedicated to noteworthy practices in land use policy. Additionally, David is co-author and editor of the PAS report, Planning for Solar Energy, which is available as a free download from APA. This report provides planners, public officials, and other community stakeholders with a basic rationale for planning for solar energy and explains how planning process participants can take advantage of the 5 strategic points of intervention to promote solar energy use. Thank you for joining us, David.
Happy to be here, Taylor.
Today we are here to learn more about APA's Planning for Solar Energy PAS report. David, can you explain the catalyst for APA's Planning for Solar Energy PAS report?
Sure. First off, I want to say that there are a bunch of great resources out there to help cities and counties understand different pieces of the solar energy puzzle. As an example, there are terrific guides out there to help communities understand solar market trends and utility rules and regulations and even common financing techniques for solar projects. And a bunch of really other important topics too. But what we didn't see at APA was much guidance that would help communities think about sunlight as a local resource and solar projects as either primary or accessory uses of land. So we really wanted to make a report that would help planners and other folks participate in local planning processes, see how solar energy fits into a larger conversation about how a community wants to grow and change over time. So we tried to be comprehensive without being overwhelming. The report includes a lot of commentary to help cities and counties through the process of developing plans, policies, and procedures related to promoting the use of solar energy. And the report also ties these discussions to short case studies to show the basic state of practice across the U.S.
That's great. Definitely sounds like this report provides a missing piece to the solar energy puzzle for those communities. Can you describe how planning for solar energy reflects the community planning perspective on solar energy use?
Well, basically, I think that viewing solar energy use through the lens of planning means taking a step back and considering how a wide range of community goals and priorities relate to the idea of taking advantage of the sunlight falling on a particular community. And this report tries to remain grounded in the reality that all communities are trying to pursue multiple goals simultaneously. So when cities and counties are thinking about solar energy, they're really interested in how it can help them make progress towards specific goals, like reducing greenhouse gas emissions, improving energy security, or maybe even building economic resilience.
That's wonderful that this report demonstrates how solar energy can help communities reach several goals. So if I'm a local leader in a community that's interested in solar energy, how should I use the report?
Well, we intended the report to be a guide throughout the policy formation process. So I would hope that it helps local officials and other community leaders explore different options they might have for supporting the use of solar energy through specific policies and actions. Now, we didn't develop the report to provide a series of prescriptions for the right way to do solar. Instead, we really wanted to provide some support for local decision-making with the understanding that every community has a different set of interests and priorities.
I think local leaders will definitely appreciate the different options available depending on their priorities. Now, the report is organized around 5 strategic points of intervention. Can you explain each of these points?
Sure. I don't think it's controversial to say that the idea of planning itself can seem a little abstract to public officials, business leaders, community groups, and maybe especially residents. So a number of years ago, APA developed a framework for thinking about the specific points where communities can translate their ideas into specific intentions and their intentions into specific actions. And now the first strategic point of intervention is visioning and goal setting. Visioning exercises bring community members together to identify shared values and priorities. And they're a common feature of long-range planning processes, and sometimes even communities engage in visioning for short-term strategic planning efforts. Typically, the explicit goal of a visioning exercise is to produce a set of broad goals and objectives. Visioning often provides the first and best opportunity for residents and other stakeholders to discuss how using solar energy can connect to other community goals and values. Now, plan making is the second strategic point of intervention. And there are three basic species of local plans. These are comprehensive plans, sub-area plans, and functional plans. Comprehensive plans deal with a wide range of topics and cover an entire jurisdiction. Sub-area plans discuss one or more topics and cover a contiguous sub-area of a jurisdiction, like a neighborhood, corridor, or a special district. And functional plans discuss systems or thematically linked topics that aren't necessarily tied to a contiguous geographic area. These include things like climate action plans, energy plans, or sustainability plans. Now, most local plans include goals, policies, and action steps to guide local decision-making, and they may address topics like preferential locations for new solar development. The third strategic point of intervention is regulations and incentives. So cities and counties use zoning codes, subdivision ordinances, and other development regulations to control the development and use of land. And they can also influence local land markets through development incentives like density bonuses and direct financial incentives like tax benefits, or even low-interest loans for certain types of projects. So promoting solar energy use through regulations generally involves identifying and removing unintended barriers and then adopting appropriate standards for solar development in local codes. Communities can also use development and financial incentives to reduce the costs of solar development. That brings us to the fourth strategic point of intervention, which is development work. Now here we're talking about how development review processes and public-private partnerships can influence specific development projects. One of the most important things local officials can do to support the use of solar energy is to ensure that interested property owners have easy access to information and assistance to help them with installing solar systems. Now, beyond this, local governments can use development agreements and discretionary approval processes, things like site plan review or conditional use review, to advocate for including solar energy systems in the development program for a site. And finally, many cities and counties pursue various types of development projects through public-private partnerships. And many of these projects have the potential to integrate solar systems. The fifth and final strategic point of intervention is public investments. Local governments use taxes and other sources of revenue to pay for infrastructure and community facilities that support private development and ideally support quality of life. In many cases, it makes financial sense to invest in solar systems on public buildings and structures. And a number of communities have installed systems on city hall buildings, libraries, schools, parking garages, police and fire stations. And beyond this, communities have additional opportunities to make direct investments in economic development and educational programs that support the use of solar energy. These could be installer training programs, or they could be K-12 educational programs to help kids understand solar energy.
Thanks for breaking down all those points for us. Lastly, let's say my community is ready to start thinking about plan updates and code changes. Does the report have any guidance on these?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Taylor. The main body of the report focuses primarily on policy considerations, which I think I said earlier, but the report comes with a series of tools to help communities audit existing plans, regulations, and processes to develop new plan language and development regulations that support using solar energy. And you can find all of these in the appendices of the report.
Great. Thank you, David. It's been wonderful talking to you today. Remember, Planning for Solar Energy PAS report is free. To get your own copy of the report, please go to www.planning.org. And you can also find out more about the Sunshot Solar Outreach Partnerships work at narc.org/SolarOps. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening. For more information about NARC, please visit narc.org.